Welcome back to Making a Major. This is the post-mortem for the 2023 Outland Empire USPSA Level 2. Before we hop in, let me quickly talk about what post-mortem means in this context. I'm a software engineer. In our world, after every major project, after every minor project, and kind of whenever we want to, we have post-mortems. We talk about what went well, what didn't go well, what we could do better, what we probably should stop doing, everything about the project. So sometimes we have like little things that we're like, oh, we did this for this project. That was a really good idea. Let's keep doing that. Or like, we've had this thing that we've been doing for years and it really got in our way. Let's try not to do that again. That sort of stuff. I don't like the term after action report, so it's a post-mortem. As you can see, I have a bit of an agenda. I'm gonna try to keep these videos digestible, probably less than 8 minutes or so, maybe shorter if I can manage it. So this will probably be a little bit of a video series. All right, first things first. Let's hop in and talk about the DQs. All right, before we get into it, I just want to be clear. This is not to humiliate anybody. I'm not going to be naming any names. We're just going to be talking about what happened and why, and probably what we can do differently, right? Because DQs are learning lessons. We always want to minimize DQ chances while also recognizing that they will happen. People just try to go too fast, and that'll become obvious here in a second. The first set of 2 DQs that we had were on stage 6 right here. If you remember right, this is the string 1, weak hand only on the left side, string 2, strong hand only on the right side. There is a mandatory reload required, 1 procedural for not doing it. Those that did the hit factor math should have realized that it is definitely better to just not reload, because even a 1 second reload or 1.5 second reload is not worth it. Hit factor math, it's one of those things you just got to do. Anyways, okay, DQs. The first one we had on the left side, we had an AD over the berm during the weak hand reload. I mean, you've got your finger on the trigger. You kind of like do this, and that can happen. Has that happened on strong hand freestyle stuff? Of course it has. So I am conflicted. We did put people in the position to do weak hand reloads. They didn't have to, but we did put them in the position to do it. Is what it is. Okay. We also had another situation where we almost had a DQ for that. That was one where I got called, where the ROs told me that this person had done had been doing a reload, and they AD'd right next to a target. So what happened is, shooter standing probably right about here, aiming at one of these two, kind of aiming at these 2 targets, starts doing a reload, shot pops off somewhere right here. Just a little left of it. Okay, great. So, as I go over, as we always do, range masters are not trying to DQ people. We're trying to keep people in the match, right? So I always ask questions to try to see if the RO might have made a mistake, or if something happened that isn't actually a DQ. So let me tell you the story. I go up and I ask, like, hey, what happened? They go, oh, he was doing a reload. He AD'd during a reload. I was like, okay, that's pretty straightforward. I go up to the shooter and I go, hey, what happened? And they go, yeah, like I pulled my hand in and shot a shot. I'm like, okay, were you doing a reload? And he goes, I was planning on it. And I go, okay, let me go talk to the RO again. So I go to the RO, I'm like, hey, so when they were doing this reload, had the mag started coming out? As we remember from the definition of doing a reload, it starts when the mag starts coming out. Very important for a DQ during a reload, right? So he goes, no, not yet. He did this. And as you can see by me doing this, you can see my fingers doing this. So that this is actually a thing that happens. I did a sort of AD into a target during my CRO class when I did this, and I pulled my hand back, and that was like, oh, I need to fix where my finger's sitting so that never can happen again. So he goes, no, the mag wasn't coming out yet. Okay, great. So it's not a reload, which means a DQ, an AD during a reload? Nope. Nope. So then I go, well, was he moving? And they go, he kind of took like a step. Okay, so now we can talk about DQ for an AD while moving. Importantly, and not aiming at a target. Okay, that's the important bit for that DQ. Since the round impacted right there next to the target, it's going to be really hard for me to impose a DQ like that when they're not aiming at a target. Because they could have been. Like, sometimes you shoot like down here and you're not even looking at the gun and you pop one off into the target because you're like, I know where my index is, pop, pop, and just move on. So while not aiming at a target. And the way I think about this is like, okay, the round impacted right next to the target. They could have been aiming at the target. If we have this sort of DQ and we have to go to an ARB, like, even a bad ARB committee would go, they might have been aiming at that target. That's not a DQ, right? So like, I'm kind of thinking ahead a little bit too. I'm like, okay, this is just not a DQ. They sort of AD'd, as John Morris likes to say. That's just, it happens. So shooter got to reshoot. Pretty straightforward. Well, not straightforward actually. That was about a 5-minute question and answer to make that happen. Okay. Anyways, next one, AD during a make ready on string 2 here. Okay. In our written stage briefs, I intentionally left it open, and I talked with Eric, the match director, about this. We intentionally left it open whether or not we want people to unload and show clear, call ranges clear, and then walk over to a second string, or in the double bays, same thing, or let the shooter choose. Like, for me personally, I don't want to have to unload and show clear, like, do the whole thing. And I mean, I was using a PCC. It's not much slower for me because I don't faff about. But, like, I didn't want to have to deal with that. So I thought, you know what? Let's let the ROs decide during their thing. Whatever they're comfortable with, they will do. So some bays did the hot thing. Some bays let the shooters like do what they wanted to do. A lot of shooters just unloaded and did the thing. Some didn't, and they were just like, whatever, just go over there and we'll continue making ready. Great. In this case, that's exactly what happened. Shooter finished string 1 over here on the left. Still had a hot gun. Walked over, continue making ready. Comes out, bam. Pulls the trigger. AD during make ready. That's a really straightforward DQ, and that's exactly what it was. Yep. Okay, let me pull up another stage. We're gonna pull up some more. We're gonna pull up stage 13. That's gonna be laser beam. So, from this list of DQs, something becomes really obvious, right? We had 180 during draw. A lot. Okay? There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. That sucks, right? And here's why. On this stage, start position for a handgun is both hands touching the red barrel. This is the shooting area, so you're not just encouraged, you have to run uprange in one way or another. If we go look at stage 3, where 2 more of these DQs happened, same deal, feet touching start stick, wrist below belt, and there is a level of encouragement to run uprange. I think 1 or 2 chose to run right. Primarily, most people chose to run back. So there was that one, and then the last one we had was stage 7, Unicorn Sector. We're gonna... Oh, I don't have the unicorn in this one. Hold on, let's pull up the double bay. Okay, that doesn't have the unicorn either. Okay, anyways, we had a unicorn right here in the middle. You're supposed to touch both hands, touching the horn. The way plans worked on this stage, pretty much everybody went right to the back to shoot that target, and then ran forward to kind of shoot stuff here, and then around to this corner to shoot stuff there, right? So, on all of these DQs, you're heavily encouraged to run back. And most of the time you're forced to, for this stage particularly. So a lot of the time what happened is the shooters would turn around, run up range, and then turn around and start drawing. In this case, 5 of them did not turn around all the way or enough past the 180 to, you know, clear the 180. It's a thing. We had 5 of them. 5 of 7 DQs were up range on the 180. I am conflicted about these DQs because as a shooter, you should be well aware where your body position is. You should be capable of turning, then drawing. Not turning and drawing, turning then drawing. That's an important distinction. You should be aware of that. I particularly like to over-exaggerate and then come out. And a lot of people, what they did here, and what I will always recommend people do, grab the gun, then turn, right? That way you don't have to worry about it uprange. And for a lot of people, that worked out perfectly. For some people, they thought, you know what, I'm gonna game this. I'm gonna start my hands behind my back, touching the barrel. Or I'm gonna start kind of like this, already facing uprange. And for some of them, this did not turn out well. Yep. I think we had one, like 3, hey, that's a tripod, don't kick that. Sorry, puppy got in the way. We had a few stages that encouraged this sort of thing. I am conflicted. I don't know whether or not we should try really hard not to make these elements part of stages. Whether we should write in the WSBs that, like, hey, maybe you should be aware of where your 180 is. I don't think we should be doing that at all. Shooters should be inherently aware of that shit. Like, come on. The other thing we could do is maybe at each of these spots, the Unicorn Sector one is the one where you'll be able to tell more. Maybe here, like, put a target that you can only see from your start area. So you are pretty much forced to draw into it. For me, I won't do that. I actually like having my draw sucked up with movement. So I don't know what to do about this. In a later segment of this post-mortem, I'm going to ask Eric what he thinks about this too, and we'll see if we can come up with something. This might just be a shooters are shooters. It is what it is. It might be something else. Don't know. Anyways, that's it for the DQs that we had. I'm going to be talking about the one on this base specifically in a little bit, because it was a lengthier thing for this DQ. I'm going to talk about that in my, like, what sort of things I got called for as an RM portion of this post-mortem.